Deliberately distorting data to downplay devastation of Bidenomics. I mean, of course, they will obviously downplay and distort the data because the data is so much against them. So they have no other option but to fudge the numbers and downplay the numbers and lie about the data, because if you go with the actual data, you will see that Bidenomics is an absolute disaster and is absolutely destroying our country. But that is what Bidenomics was intended to do. It's doing exactly what it's intended to do. And they can't admit that, so they have to make smoke screens and distort the data. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button, share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon where I talk about things I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my merch store. Also, check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for news as well. All right, let's talk about this news. Jared Bernstein's lack of understanding of economic theory and facts is concerning, especially considering his role as the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors. In his efforts to defend the performance of Bidenomics, Bernstein is resorting to distorting data and making false claims, which does nothing to alleviate the financial struggles of the middle class. Even worse, his statements display a disregard for the challenges faced by Americans under the Biden administration. One notable instance is Bernstein's attempt to downplay the growing credit and credit card debt in the nation, which has exceeded $1 trillion. Like, people really have no idea how big that number really is. Um, but it exceeded $1 trillion for the first time. And despite rising interest rates, Americans are increasingly relying on credit cards to make ends meet. However, when confronted with these facts, Bernstein falsely asserted that consumer financing costs has decreased relative to disposable personal income. Just a flat out lie. Both credit card debt and interest rates on the debt have reached record highs. Bernstein's dismissal of these figures due to the growth in disposable personal income reveals his ignorance of the data, even though it is produced by the very administration he is part of. But I don't really think it's ignorance. I think he knows what it is, but he has to try to, he has no other recourse but to lie about it. But while disposable personal income has increased by 3.8% during President Joe Biden's tenure, credit card debt has surged by 34%. So that 3.8% doesn't do anything, really. And interest rates has risen by 40%, almost 50%. So nearly by 40%, nearly 10 times the increase in disposable personal income. This renders Bernstein's claim about lower credit card financing costs relative to income today is mathematically impossible. It's a flat out lie. To support the narrative of the Biden administration, Bernstein has attempted to compare the current situation to pre-pandemic conditions, but he remains incorrect. Although disposable personal income has outpaced credit card debt 18% versus 11% from February 2020 to the present, credit card interest rates have still climbed by 37%. The higher interest rates is a crucial factor because the amount of interest charged on a credit card depends on both the credit card's balance and its interest rates. The combination of increased credit card debt and higher interest rates makes it mathematically impossible for credit card financing costs relative to income to be lower today than pandemic. Before the pandemic, directly contradicting Bernstein's assertion. Furthermore, when factoring in inflation, which has eroded the purchasing power of the dollar by about 17% under Biden, real disposable personal income has declined by 8.3%. And they know this. They know this. They don't, but they don't. They're not. They're leaving out that point. This means people have less money available at the end of each month to pay down their credit card debts and other financial obligations. It's worth noting that the growing consumer debt is currently sustaining the current levels of spending, a fact that Bernstein appears to overlook. While he praised the growth in consumer spending in July, he failed to acknowledge that there was no corresponding income growth that month. This indicates that the additional spending resulted from dwindling savings and increase in debt, which is unsustainable, especially in the face of rising interest rates. And Bernstein proposed solution of providing households with more breathing room and increasing real wages sounds good in theory. However, real wages have yet to show any significant increase. In fact, real weekly earnings declined in July, and the August report is expected to show a second consecutive drop. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland, real weekly earnings have fallen by 4.9% since Biden assumed office. Inflation has consistently outpaced wage growth during Biden's presidency to the extent that the average American worker's weekly earning can no longer buy what they could when he took office. I mean, it's evident. Thus far, the only so called breathing room provided by the Biden administration seems to be underwater. The disparity between the administration's narrative and economic reality is unsurprising, considering that Bernstein lacks an economics background. His academic degrees are in music, philosophy, and social work. So, by that standard, I could technically be an economic advisor. This makes no sense because I probably know more about economics than this guy because I read more than like about economics more than likely than this guy. And his academic degrees, it appears that he struggles to comprehend the statistics published by the administration, even those he can confidently cites in interviews. And with economic advisors like Bernstein, it's no wonder that many are concerned about the potential for another recession, which I think we're already in one now. They're just lying about it, but soon they're not going to be able to hide it. Um, and that's par for the course for Bidenomics. But let me know what you think. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, subscribe, and check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest news. Until next time, peace.